My name is Vanessa Reed. I'm 40 years old. 14 years ago, I graduated law school with more debt than I could comfortably think about, and I spent the next decade building Reed family law from a single rented office, with one desk and a second-hand filing cabinet into a respected practice, with 6 attorneys and a reputation for winning cases other firms wouldn't touch. I didn't inherit clients. I didn't inherit a reputation. I built both, case by case, late night by late night, for 14 years. I passed the bar on my second attempt, after failing the first, worked as an associate for 6 brutal years at a firm that never once said thank you, and then took every risk I had to open my own practice. I missed my own 30th birthday, because I was prepping for a custody trial. I built relationships with judges, clerks, and clients who trusted me with the most painful moments of their lives. My parents were proud, or at least, that's what I always believed. Whenever they visited the office, my mother would look at my name on the glass door, smiling. "You've built something remarkable, Vanessa." My father would nod along. "Your grandfather always said this family needed a lawyer. He'd be proud." Hearing that meant everything to me. My younger sister, Claire, was 34. Bright, personable, and a licensed attorney herself, though her career had been a series of short stays at other firms, each ending after conflicts with partners, or complaints about being passed over. She'd bounced through 3 firms in 8 years, always certain the next one would finally recognize her talent. I never resented her for it. I told myself every family has someone whose path takes longer to settle. I never needed anyone to hand me anything. I built Reed family law with my own hands, and that felt like enough. Then, 6 months ago, everything changed. My mother called me on a Sunday afternoon. "Vanessa, we need to talk. As a family. It's important." I drove to my parents' house straight from a deposition, still carrying my briefcase. Claire was already at the table. So was my father. The room felt different the moment I walked in. No one smiled. My mother cleared her throat. Claire just left her position at Whitfield and Associates. Another conflict with the partners. "We think it's time she had something of her own, something stable." I looked at my sister. She shrugged, the same way she always did when consequences arrived, like they were simply bad luck rather than a pattern worth examining. Then my father reached across the table, and set his hand over mine. "Vanessa, we've been thinking. You've built such a respected practice. Claire is a licensed attorney too. Maybe it's time to bring her in as a full partner, give her equal ownership. Family should build things together." I sat there for a moment, certain I had misheard him. "You want me to give Claire ownership of my firm?" "Not give," my mother said quickly. "Just share it properly. Keep it in the family." "It already carries the family name," I said. "Mine." Claire finally spoke, her voice light, almost dismissive. "Come on, Vanessa. I'm a licensed attorney too. I could bring real value. You could use another name on the letterhead." I looked at her steadily. "I'd welcome you as an associate, built up the way I had to be. Ownership is different." Claire's jaw tightened. "So you think I'm not good enough to be your equal?" "I think ownership is earned through building something," I said carefully, "not through being related to the person who did." The argument dragged on for nearly an hour. Eventually, I left, heartbroken and furious in equal measure. As I drove home, I kept wondering how the people who raised me to work hard could suddenly expect me to hand away everything I had built with my own sacrifice. I had no idea they had already begun making plans behind my back, and that within days, the State Bar Association would be calling my office with questions about unauthorized practice. I barely slept that night. My mother's words kept circling in my mind. Family should build things together. As if 14 years of building a licensed practice could simply be split because someone else wanted a piece of the letterhead. The next morning, I went into the office like always, reviewing case files, preparing for a hearing later that week. Work had always been my refuge. That morning, even that felt unsettled. 3 days later, my office manager knocked on my door, her face tense. "Vanessa, there's a call for you. It's the State Bar Association. They're asking about a filing that lists Claire Reed as a managing partner of this firm." My stomach dropped. I never filed anything like that. I picked up the call myself. The compliance officer on the line explained calmly that their office had received a notification, supposedly from our firm, listing Claire as a newly added managing partner with signatory authority over trust accounts. "I never authorized this," I said, my voice tight. "I am the sole owner of this practice." "We understand," the officer replied. "But until this is resolved, we need to place a compliance hold on the firm's trust account activity. Any unauthorized change to signatory authority on client trust funds is treated as a serious matter." I sat frozen at my desk. Client trust accounts held money for ongoing cases, settlement funds, retainers, money that belonged to people who trusted me to protect it. And now, because of a filing I never made, that account was frozen. I called Claire immediately. "Did you file something with the Bar Association, claiming you're a managing partner here?" There was a pause. I figured it was easier to just start acting the part, instead of waiting around for everyone to agree. I used some of the firm's old letterhead. I didn't think it would actually cause a problem. "You forged authority over client trust funds, Claire," I said, my voice shaking. "That's not a formality. That's the kind of thing that gets a license suspended." "I didn't forge anything," she said defensively. "I just filled out a form. Using letterhead you weren't authorized to use, listing yourself as an owner you've never been," I said. "That's exactly what forgery means in this context." I drove straight to my parents' house that evening. Claire was there, sitting at the kitchen table, arms crossed. My mother stepped between us before I could speak. "We assumed you'd come around eventually," she said. My father added gently, "Family shouldn't fight over a law firm, Vanessa." I looked between the three of them, my own family, casually rewriting the ownership structure of a licensed legal practice, one holding actual client money in trust. This wasn't disrespect anymore. This was a filing that could end my career. I called my malpractice and licensing attorney that night. "Mr. Bellwether, it's Vanessa Reed. I need you first thing tomorrow." His voice was calm and immediate. "Tell me everything." The next morning, I sat across from Mr. Bellwether, the same attorney who had helped me file the original formation documents for Reed Family Law 14 years earlier, terrified and hopeful in equal measure back then. "Tell me honestly," I said. "How bad is this?" He reviewed the Bar Association's notice, his expression sharpening. "This is serious, but fixable." Claire filed a change of ownership notification using firm letterhead she had no authority to use, listing herself with signatory access to trust accounts she has no legal claim to. The bar takes trust account integrity extremely seriously, for good reason. We need to file an emergency correction today, along with a sworn statement establishing you as the sole owner and the only authorized signatory. They forgot one clause, I said quietly. The clause in my original operating agreement that requires unanimous written consent from the sole owner, meaning me, for any change in ownership or signatory authority. Nobody checked it. Nobody even asked. Exactly, Mr. Bellwether said. And the bar doesn't care about family dynamics. They care about client protection. We need to move fast. We spent the day compiling documentation, the original operating agreement, my bar license, proof of sole ownership, everything establishing that Claire's filing was entirely unauthorized. By evening, we had submitted an emergency correction, along with a formal complaint disputing the fraudulent filing. Meanwhile, the compliance hold had already caused real damage. 2 ongoing settlements couldn't be disbursed to clients waiting on funds they desperately needed. My staff fielded confused, frustrated calls all day. Everything I had built over 14 years was hanging by a thread, because of paperwork filed without my knowledge or consent. That evening, I called Claire again. Do you understand what you did? Client settlement money is frozen right now. Real people, waiting on money for medical bills and rent, can't access their own funds, because of what you filed. There was a long silence. Then, quietly, I didn't think it would actually get checked that fast. It mattered, I said. It mattered more than almost anything else in this firm's history. My father called that night. Vanessa, is it true? Client funds are frozen because of Claire. Yes, I said simply. There was a long pause. We thought we were helping her find her place. You helped her believe she could claim something she never built, I said. And it put real clients, real people relying on me, directly at risk. He had no response. 5 days after the Bar Association's first call, the emergency correction was approved. Signatory authority was restored solely to me. The frozen settlements were released to my clients, along with a personal call and apology from me for the delay, though I never disclosed the real reason behind it. It took weeks to fully rebuild trust with a few clients who had been directly affected. Most understood once I explained an administrative error had occurred. A couple were rattled enough that they considered other representation before I personally walked them through everything and rebuilt their confidence. A week after the crisis resolved, my mother called and asked if we could talk, just the 2 of us. We met at a small cafe near my office. She looked smaller than I remembered, tired in a way that had nothing to do with age. I'm sorry, Vanessa, she said, her voice breaking. We spent so many years believing Claire just needed one real opportunity, that we never stopped to ask what it would cost you, or your clients, if that opportunity was taken instead of earned. I nodded slowly. I never wanted to compete with my sister. I only wanted what I built to be respected and protected as mine. You deserved that, she whispered. We just didn't give it to you. Claire eventually faced a formal review from the Bar Association for the unauthorized filing, resulting in a period of supervised practice at a smaller firm while she worked to rebuild her standing. She called me a few months later, her voice quieter than I'd heard it in years. I finished my supervision period, she said. Clean record again. Earned this time, not assumed. There was something different in her voice. Not entitlement. Accountability. That's a good place to start, I told her. That Christmas, for the first time in years, our family gathered without an agenda hidden beneath the surface. No arguments about the firm. No quiet assumptions disguised as help. Just an honest dinner, full of the kind of peace I hadn't felt in a long time. My father raised his glass before we ate. I used to think giving Claire opportunities meant handing her things before she'd built the foundation for them. I understand now that all it did was put everyone, including her, at real risk. Later that night, I sat alone in my office after everyone had gone home, the same office where Reed Family Law had started as one desk and a second-hand filing cabinet. 14 years of my life were built into every case file, every client relationship, every piece of paperwork I had filed carefully and correctly. The firm was never just a business. It was proof of every responsible decision I had made, and refused to let anyone else's shortcut put at risk again. Sometimes the people who love us make painful mistakes, mistaking good intentions for due diligence. Forgiveness matters. But so do boundaries, and so does doing things properly. Because protecting what you've built with your own hands, and the people who trust you with theirs, is never selfish. And that is the one tiny clause my family almost forgot to check.